Hey, y'all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world today on this December 13th, 2021. And I am coming back with another video that probably has some of you guys scratching your heads, wondering what the hell is Leak you doing? What sort of really weird, strange alternative reality is Leak you living in? And I wanted to invite you guys to come along with me. So listen, y'all know that I have been, hey, Centel Boo, y'all know I have been very fascinated with, you've seen the title, right? You know, I've been extremely fascinated with this sort of topic for really my whole life. But, you know, these days we have YouTube and live streams, and we like to I like to talk about these topics with you guys from a logical perspective. Hello, Deanna. Trying to, come at y'all from a logical perspective on this because I know how crazy that some people may think that we are when we sort of indulge in our fantasies like this. But I want to introduce another story to you guys, and it's up to you what you want to believe. Okay, it's your choice. But this is something that I discovered. It's been about a year and a half or so since I discovered this story, and I wanted to share it with you guys because it's fascinating, regardless of what your beliefs may be. Now, there is a woman, okay, named Anjali. And Anjali has served her country, the United States of America, her entire adult life. Her resume is impeccable, okay? And I want to share this story with you that she sat down at the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., where she held a news conference, where she told a story of meeting some very interesting life beings through a contractor. Now, this all came about during her time as a security officer for, I believe it was the CIA, actually. And she describes this story, okay, of meeting with these very interesting beings and actually communicating with them through her consciousness, okay? And listen, this ain't the first time I've heard these types of stories where people, the main question is like, well, how in the world would you even communicate with some otherworldly being like that? It's through the consciousness, telepathy, right? It's not like there's some universal alien language or something strange like that. And I know that these titles and things kind of got y'all like, what the hell is Leak you over there talking about? But I promise you, give me just about 10 or 15 minutes and you are going to be just as enthralled in this as I am. Anjali, okay, has not made any money from her story that she has told. And I'm honestly looking forward. It's supposed to be this year, before the end of this year. She was supposed to have a second meeting, okay, with these beings. And I don't know if she has done that yet, but I would like to show this to you from her first meeting. And you guys, again, take it how you will, all right? I think there's a little bit of truth in gossip, and I believe there's way too many stories. And again, I'm coming from a more logical standpoint. I don't believe that aliens come from other planets. Okay, I don't believe that at all. My beliefs are rooted in the Bible. Okay, And also rooted in some of the books that aren't in the Bible that the Catholic Church decided to strip out. Book of Jasher, okay, the Book of Enoch. These are all books where these books have been found on parchment paper in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I think that anytime a man is making a decision on what books they feel should be in the Bible, we should always question that, okay? I do believe that these byproducts or these beings come from these watchers, these angels that God bound to the earth. Matter of fact, bound them to the depths of the earth. And these are the angels that had the Nephilim or the giants based on the fact that they decided to lay with mankind or with women and begot babies with these women. And the babies that were birthed from these relationships were giants, aka known as the men of old. And this is talked about even in the Bible, the traditional Bible. If we're not even talking about the Book of Enoch or the Book of Jasher and a couple of other books that aren't not in the 66 booked version, okay? Allow your mind to just sort of relax and take it as you will, okay? Now, I don't want to bore you with all of the other details, but if you would like, okay, to go and do some more research, there's the link for you. This story hit many news agencies, okay? This is actually CBS out of Las Vegas. This story went to a couple of different news agencies who published this. Again, I'm going to let you make from it what you will, but it is a very interesting story. And if you're like me and you're into this topic, then you'll know that you've heard these things before. And it sort of makes you wonder, is everybody lying?
And with whom? And why? She was concerned.
She doesn't have a mic on, so you're going to have to deal with the sound as it is. But I can assure you the story gets very interesting.
So,
I'll make it larger. Where she gets to... There we go.
So at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, January 21st, 2018, I entered a tunnel that had been excavated by a man who, yes, knows how to do it and laughs wholeheartedly at the idea that it can't be done. It's quite amusing. I entered the tunnel with 4 people, Wayne and Trisha, and another couple whom they're no longer in contact with. After a few minutes of walking into this nicely excavated tunnel, I just have to say that, there was a light ahead of us, and we began walking a little bit quicker. And when we rounded the corner, there were 2 different races of beings that were standing there. There was a gray, I do not believe that he is organic in the way that we understand. Also, not a drone. Stand. but a body that holds a consciousness that interacts. There were also several other beings that were what we typically, now I understand, call in this community the phenomena community. They were all well over 6, approaching probably 6.5, maybe a little bit taller, very tall. They would stand out in this crowd. We would all notice. They had fine white hair, warm, not cool colored, a warmish white, but their skin, they're radiant. They have, it's nearly alabaster, but I don't mean to imply cold or hard, just beautiful and stunning, and makes you want to run your hand across it. After saying hello to me, and at the time, nearly feigning surprise. "Oh, hello, Anjali," they said. "We've been waiting to talk to you." They wanted me to accompany them deeper into their base. And I want to make something very clear, that from where this excavated tunnel is, which is mostly rock, okay? People who live in the Mojave Desert, they understand what I'm talking about, and they know. It's pretty stable. Where it ended and where their space began was seamless. There was nothing there. It just suddenly was, okay? This wasn't like there was a physical edge that I could delineate. They took me into a room where I met several of the most amazing beings that are here. One was in a body approaching 8 foot tall, taller than the door. That was like a sliding hatch door. I looked up into the room on the other side of the door to meet the face of a being that had been giving me visits. And I thought at the time that this being was probably about 4 feet tall. Such is the nature of this phenomena. This being in physical form has chosen an 8 foot tall form with lavender skin that looks like a very beautiful praying mantis. A mantis.
Listen, I had to cut on in here for a second because that ain't the first time we've heard that, is it? We have actually even looked at documentation from scientists and other people that have engaged in work in some of these Black Ops projects, okay, where they describe these various different types, insectoid types, reptilian or reptile or reptoid types, right? Multiple different types of the gray beings. We literally went through the whole Project Planet Earth book not too long ago, where we literally looked at these different alien type beings, as you would want to say. And again, you have to look at it, I believe, from a stance of, is it possible that these watchers that were bound to Earth, are they possibly creating beings or trying to create beings that would replace Homo sapiens, or are they trying to tarnish Homo sapien bloodline? They did a good job with the Nephilim, and then God flooded the world. But again, it's just, well, relax your mind for a second, okay? Here we go.
I wish nothing more than for the outcome of all of this to be for you to see the beauty in the faces that I saw that day. There are beings of light that literally, when you look at them, it is like there is just a membrane that encapsulates a humanoid form. You can't see through it. It's not transparent. It's light. It's there. It's some of the highest consciousnesses that exist. Some of the purest love. Thank you for your patience. There was a table that came up out of the floor, and I laid on it. And they removed my consciousness from this body. And it was beneath me. I had no feeling. And there was a mist that I can only describe as light. Everyone knows what a misty morning looks like. Imagine if that mist, if every little dot of water was a little fragment of light. And that's what I was experiencing. And it was absolutely pure, astonishing love. And the entire time they're saying, wake up, wake up. Remember what you're supposed to be doing. Remember who you are. Remember why you're here. And prepare to transcend. They explained to me about something that took me a very long time to remember the word. I wasn't even sure until I underwent hypno-regression. I had to be certain. They explained something about the evolution and growth of consciousness through learning. And they used a word called density, but I didn't understand that. They were trying to wake me up. They were saying to me, the veil is very heavy. Wake up. Remember what you agreed to do. After some time, they escorted me back to the opening of the tunnel, where the tunnel met their base. And Wayne stepped forward into the space that I was in, and immediately we were standing in his home. I grabbed my head and screamed some expletives like I can never repeat on air. As you can imagine. And their friends and his wife, they just said, "Oh, you're back. That's what's going on." We were back under this archway that divides one side of his house from the other. And he had told me that when he was done visiting them, that they would always put him back there. And this was before we went into the tunnel. And I thought, well, this is either going to be the greatest day of my life or I'm going to be killed, but at least I'll know who did it. I was shooting for greatest day. Everything about them spoke to their authenticity. And indeed, he was not kidding. In the very blink of an eye, we were moved from inside of that mountain back under that archway in his home. It's been a long and complicated journey for me since then. I was not always willing to do this. Even after they said, "But you agreed." They visited me several times to say, "But you agreed. Hurry." So, once again, I agreed. Before I talk about the message that they would like to speak to you today, I would like to talk about the formation of a team that will return to this tunnel, and with me and the owners of this property, this team will enter the base of these higher beings with every kind of known equipment that a scientist could possibly get his hands on. Those are the scientists I'm looking for. You've got equipment to measure? Let me know. We will be releasing some of the names of our team in the coming week or two. We have a couple of things that need to be worked out for their own sakes. You can imagine that even the people who want to be on this team are afraid to be on this team. And they're not afraid of the ones that are in the mountain. They're afraid of their human brothers and sisters walking around. They're afraid that you're going to cost them their career if they say, "Yes, I'll go. And I'll gather every piece of evidence I can. And I'll tell you everything I know." They're afraid that you're going to deride them, that they will be fired, let go, ostracized, accused of being in a cult. Everyone is so afraid, but they're mostly afraid of each other. Who else is there to be afraid of? We have an astronaut who has committed, and a lead on another. We have a well-known documentarian who will accompany us. We will take a chief investigative reporter who is well known. We will take academics, physicists, astronomers. Some have already been invited, and they're waiting to see the fallout of this, to see if they can afford to do it, or if they have to walk away from potentially the greatest moment of their lives. I urge you to be kind and patient, and to be supportive of absolutely anyone across the face of this earth who wants to join this team and is approved. There will be so much raw data that is produced and given to you, collected and given to you. I have pretty much given you everything but my blood type, which is O negative. There it is. You know, transparency and full disclosure and honesty is the only thing that I want here. And I am looking for those people who can help us all deliver that. Because the beings need us to be ready for contact. Just a moment. They want you to understand that you do not need to be afraid. That this cycle of learning this cycle of learning is coming to an end. Because humanity's consciousness is evolving. The way that consciousness forms and creates matter, which is just energy manifest, something that they want to help us learn to do as we evolve. All consciousness begins and ends in the same place, from what they call the source of all light. In the first and second densities, consciousness is learning about its environment. It's learning that it exists in a whole, as part of one. When the consciousness matures for third density learning, it is placed in an environment that is conducive to a sensory learning experience. They say that the third density, is the density of choice. It is where we learn to remember who we are, where the seat of our consciousness has originated, and which path we want to go down to explore that. I say that this is what we chose, each and every one of us, as a unique expression of the one source of creation, that each is an expression of that creation, which is also the creator. That we move through consciousness learning and coalesce at each stage. We bring what we have learned from each density into the next, and we begin to further coalesce as we return back to our purest form, which is light. These beings can travel on light because they are the light. They have been with us from the beginning. They have been where we are. Everything goes through the same cycle of consciousness development and recognition of itself. They have been where we are. And they have been guardians of our process. When every form of consciousness coalesces back into the pure light, it remembers fully and begins to learn how to create its own creation. And therefore, it watches. It watches other expressions of creation learning, because they only want to understand how to make their own. This is 7 density learning. Once there is full recognition of oneself consciously, it immediately, you split your own consciousness. Your consciousness becomes many. And that informs the next creation. And that is the 8th density creation. That is the creator. And immediately, in order to learn, the creator forgets oneself and becomes first density again. And each time that this happens, consciousness spreads throughout everything, infinitely, for infinite learning, infinite gathering of understanding and wisdom. So yes, they have been here for a very long time. This cycle of 3rd density learning has been called many things. It has been called reincarnation. It's been called creation and apocalypse. It's simply a beginning and an end of a cycle, okay? So that the next cycle can begin. So what we have now here on Earth is we have 2 things that are occurring simultaneously. We have natural cyclical changes of this Earth as it moves into its own density and becomes a 4th density environment. It will no longer be compatible for 3rd density experience. which is what they say these human biotechnology bodies give us here. We have been through this cycle long enough, and it's time for the next stage. I know there are going to be so many questions. And I really look forward to doing my best to answer them all. Sorry, I saw some ducks and it was such a nice relief. Oh. I think that it may be time for me to take just a brief moment, take a drink of water. Then I will be happy to answer any questions that you have to the best of my ability. We will upload this everywhere that we can. We ask you to
closer.
It's okay. I had a question about
Y'all, listen.
pain and how
If you want to go and listen, to the rest of the questions and some of the things that there are, some of her responses to those questions, the link is in the live chat there for you. I also put a link to this news article in the description of the video as well. It's not the first time I've heard those types of things. And I told y'all before about me subscribing to Gaia, the Gaia channel, which is on Amazon Prime. It's the only reason I even have Amazon Prime. But there is Cosmic Disclosure, and Deep Space is another really nice kind of documentary style newsy type of program that I like to watch. It's got 3 seasons so far. But Cosmic Disclosure is quite an interesting program. And I would honestly recommend all of you check out, I think it's season 14. It's like the last 6 episodes in Cosmic Disclosure. There's a man named Tim who is a mystery. But if you listen to him talk, he talks about frequencies, interdimensional type frequencies, and essentially goes into great detail about consciousness, higher levels of higher consciousness. And if you've been kind of researching this topic like I have for my entire adult life, again, it's not the first time that I've heard that type of talk, or they talk about consciousness and frequencies and sound frequencies and how the communications and blah, blah, blah. Now, listen, some people even talk about how Bigfoot, for example, was an engineered type of creature or whatnot. There's a lot of mystery creatures or mythological creatures, demons, even the way that demons even look. There's even a related humanoid type creature that sort of looks like that. There's a couple of different mythological creatures that I think can be perfectly explained. Would you want to be on that team, though? That'd be my question. Would you want to be on a team where you're going to have some sort of an interaction with an otherworldly being, okay? The way that she describes that. We are looked at like cattle in some respects. We are looked at like cattle, and My understanding is that our DNA is important to these beings. And again, is it possible that these gray alien beings that we see are clones, cloned creatures? I want to show you another photo real quick, okay? Now, you guys know I've talked about Art Alien on this channel before, right? We have talked about Art Alien, and I've even did a, I showed some of his content with his permission, of course. And his name, is Joe, and Joe has been doing videos where he essentially reviews the photos that come from the various different rovers, right? And he analyzes those. And he's had some amazing finds over the years. They are not just rocks. And I personally believe that there was some sort of life on Mars at one point, and there may even be life on Mars now. There seems to be evidence of lizards, gerbil creatures, even when you look at like the feet, okay, I know this sounds crazy, but if you look at the feet on some of these creatures that have been shown, not only just on Art Aliens channel, but even in some of the very famous newspapers around the world, like The Guardian and the Daily Mail. What's really strange is these creatures like feet, they seem almost bent. And I don't know if that is based off how that the gravity is on Mars, if that is, we just don't know, right? Unless we put some sort of a living creature or a living being on that planet, we just don't know. How could we even put a creature on that planet and expect it to survive? It would have to first survive, a 7-month trip to Mars. Then it'd have to survive the landing. There are some amazing finds on Art Aliens page. And I want to show you one really quick. Let me pull something up really quick. Y'all listen to this while I'm pulling this up. Now, if you don't know who Linda Moulton Howe is, okay, she's been featured on this channel many times before. And Linda Moulton Howe is a very well-regarded researcher. And she's brought she was even around when Art Bell was doing Coast to Coast AM. She's been around for the longest time. And she has talked about EBENs, EBEs, just listen.
Power brokers can't stop this. That's what excites me. That it's happening in populations around the world. I can feel it. I can see it in the mail and phones and everything that I get. If it tips, it's going to be like New Year's Eve to New Year's Day. Everywhere.
I have been feeling this too.
It's happening.
It's the 100th monkey. We're reaching it.
Exactly. And once it happens,
the real question is, if you see this type of information being pushed out on the History Channel, would that make you believe it even more?
September 19th, 1961. According to news accounts, Betty and Barney Hill were driving through New Hampshire late at night when a large flying saucer rapidly approached them and then hovered over their car.
Trying to fix this window here. If I can get it to stretch
through the windows of the craft. And mysteriously, the couple also reported complete memory loss of the 2 hours immediately following the encounter.
No one really knows to this day what Betty and Barney Hill saw.
There are too many windows
the
out there.
details of their case do reflect on various other versions of alien abduction. I say alien abduction because some of the pieces of information that they discuss, the loss of time, seeing beings that actually came out of this craft and associated and interacted with them, and they weren't human.
Ultimately, under hypnosis,
Sorry, I'm trying to stretch
they were
this.
brought out of the car and taken aboard the ship. That it was a legitimate abduction, and that Betty pleaded with her captors, if you will, that not to harm her as she laid on this table and experiments were done on her, like a needle being inserted into her stomach. Barney relates a number of skin samples and sperm being taken from him.
The beings described by Betty and Barney Hill fit the classic case of a gray. Now, there are variations to size and dimensions of these beings, but they all seem to have the same characteristics. Slim, spindly bodies, large oval heads, large oversized eyes.
The Hills were the first documented case of an alien abduction in modern time, but it is not the last. Since the 1960s, there have been many more similar reports, including that of Kim Carlsberg, a commercial photographer, who in 1988 claimed to have been abducted by gray aliens in the middle of the night.
We were living on the beach
Hey,
in
Third Eye!
Pacific Palisades, and I walked up to the window and I saw this light on the horizon that I'd never seen before. You know, I'd lived on the beach my whole life, and it wasn't a boat and it wasn't a star. I just watched this craft. The next thing I knew, it jetted into the stars and disappeared, and I went to bed as usual. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was not in my bed any longer. I was naked and I was paralyzed. The beings I saw were about 3.5 feet tall. They were naked. They were off-white. They were not gray. They had huge heads, huge wrap-around black eyes, tiny little bodies.
There are many stories of greys abducting humans into their spaceships, and even of being inseminated with alien reproductive material and then conceiving human alien hybrid babies and having those fetuses removed from their bodies and then grown on the alien spaceships. In some cases, people report going back onto the spaceship and being able to see these hybrid offspring.
I was being used for my DNA. They were creating hybrid children from my eggs, someone else's sperm, and combining it with their DNA and their sperm. I would be implanted with an alien fetus, and they would leave the fetus in my body for a few months. Then they would bring me back again later, and then they would remove it. It was horrific. It was terrifying.
You can't have so many people saying that they've been abducted and not have some possibility of truth with that. I think it's happening. I don't know if it's a hybridization program for these ETs or whether they're trying to bring these hybrids back to this planet one day when the environment changes. But in my opinion, something very strange is happening to these people who claim to be abducted.
And I'm telling you, if you do a little bit of research, okay, that program is not so far-fetched when you really, really, really start thinking about it and you start putting it in perspective. And it all really depends on your beliefs and stuff, you know. But listen, do any of y'all notice that every time you look up alien or reptilian or something of that effect, that YouTube is now inserting Wikipedia content? I know it's crazy to even like voice this type of stuff 10 years ago, 20 years ago, even saying what I'm saying would have been considered absolutely insane and crazy. But y'all, listen, there's no explanation for some of this. There is no explanation. I don't think that we have these understanding from a scientific perspective to actually understand some of this stuff. The beings of light, that has been taught for years and years and years and years of beings of light. There's actually documentaries on that. There's if you have you all ever wondered where some of our technology comes from? What's up, OTS? Have y'all ever just really looked at how fast technologies moved, like since the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s? And all of a sudden we graduated from 14.4 baud modems to now we're fiber optics, where we're literally talking over fiber optic cables, which is just glass. That's all a fiber optic cable is on the inside. You just cable it a certain way. Okay. And that's not the first time that I've heard about like these different what Anjali was describing there in regards to like these creatures. Now, what I've heard about those praying mantis looking ones, the insectoids as they call them, what I have heard is that they're quite dangerous, actually.
On the skies through Google Maps, and I like these when they show these crazy anomalies. And right now I'm looking at some kind of massive craft. It seems to be releasing some kind of small little drone.
This is not a fake anomaly, a chip in the lens. This is something that days. Hopefully it stays up there. But if they
check this out, this is an amazing video right here.
I'm rolling it now, and we're checking this out. I'm just seeing some kind of a static. Whoa. So we have a close encounter of something in close proximity to a massive military airliner. We don't see.
And there's been a lot of talk of even the military.
Like whatever it was
they
really
released.
Close.
There were two videos that just recently came out.
And this is that moment in time
where there were literally pyramid-shaped objects, multiple pyramid-shaped objects that were flying above some of our aircraft carriers. There's been so many reports of there being unidentified flying objects around all sorts of military installations, flying next to our planes, in some cases seeming to be a little bit aggressive, where these pilots are sort of trying to navigate out of their way. We've seen fighter jets trying to chase after them, and they can't even physically keep up. And God only knows what these are. These unidentified flying objects may not be related to aliens at all, in my opinion. What if but again, I don't know how much I really believe about some alien beings coming all the way 30-something, 40-something light years from Earth, deciding to come here of all places. Is it possible that there's a more logical explanation? Like the watchers that God bound to the earth. Remember, they taught mankind all those things. Alchemy, how to tell the weather. Of course, they'd be quite advanced, right? In science. But what are these things?
Like nobody's business. So maybe they're just hanging out, and that person got lucky.
Who knows? I was going to say, though, if you look at some even famous paintings, there has been paintings of gimbal type objects going back thousands of years. And there was no helicopters and planes 200 years ago, but somehow, the fallen angels. Who knows what these objects are? But there is a lot of UFO activity in South America. Look at this.
These kind of spacecraft, and very unique in its own way, that they don't travel like we see in drone technology or even balloons. This is something entirely different. They look metallic. They kind of move in the same similar fashion. And then to have these things so close next to a commercial or military airliner is quite concerning by, I'm sure, a lot of
How
people.
many
But again,
incidents have happened that may have been caused by these, and we just don't know.
Encounter with a UFO by colossal status right here. Nobody's ever seen a UFO this close in recent days.
Yeah, that's right, Brent. And we're sharing it as fast as possible. Good job getting all.
By the way, third phase of moon has been around for a very long time. And they cover a lot of these sorts of things. Third phase of moon. I think those two are like twins or something like that, two of the brothers. But yeah, what if they're just not so alien? What if they're not as alien as some people think? What if, just what if, they don't come from other planets at all? I think that's a huge possibility. And I'm fascinated in this topic. I'm telling you. It's fascinating. Shape-shifting objects. Amazing. And this is not the first time that these types of videos have came out either with the shape-shifting objects. But y'all, I've got to show you, okay, this humanoid, all right, object that our alien had over there on his channel. And I'm going to drop a link too. You guys have got to go subscribe and check out
So
his
first
channel.
of all, I'd have to say this is a great capture. Again, we're getting a really good close-up look at this. And a lot of people might say that this could be some kind of angelic being or a life form. And other people might say that this is just simply a weather balloon. And that is more likely the case.
Like a
what's your
weather
thoughts? I know
balloon. Sure looks like a beam of light. And that's what I was going to tell you guys. There, if you actually adjust your cameras in certain ways or certain functions, you will actually be able to pick up even more. Like, for example, a lot of these types of anomalies are not seen unless you're looking through night vision camera, for example. And where do you think night vision technology came from? Where did a lot of this technology come from?
Harper, like you said, something organic. Now we got something incredible coming up, Blake, right?
Absolutely. The Men in Black has made its debut to the world. Check out our special on the mysterious men. Watch this.
There he recorded footage of an ICBM and was surprised to find the extraordinary. Here he recalls the events in detail.
And flying downrange, we got all three stages of powered flight. And as the dummy warhead and the package flew on down range, we were all celebrating the fact that we had seen the thing and accomplished the mission.
And on review of the film the next day, what Jacobs and his supervisor was a major
Joe Rogan experience
noticed that there was an object, a UFO.
Everything was flying along, and suddenly, in the same direction this stuff was flying at about 8,000 miles an hour, an object came into the frame, shot a beam of light at the warhead, flew up to the top, shot another beam of light at the warhead, flew around the direction it was flying, shot another beam of light at the warhead, flew down, shot another beam of light at the warhead, and flew out the same way it came in.
Well, I don't see it. Why didn't you see this when you were shooting it?
Well, it was 600 to 800 miles away from us. The Major Mansman said to me, "What was that? Were you guys screwing around up there?" I said, "No, sir." And he said, "Then tell me what that was." And I said, "We got a UFO." And he said, "Lieutenant, you are never to speak of this again. As far as you're concerned, this didn't happen."
Eventually, Major Mansman confirmed Dr. Jacobs' claims of a UFO interacting with the ICBM. The Major also disclosed that two agents who were not the CIA took the footage and altered it. All film evidence of the UFO and its interactions with the missile were missing. The Major reported that one agent said to him, "That leaves you off the hook, but not off disclosure." Understood?
Somehow the Major had said to Jacobs that these men told him they erased the flying saucer from this film. And they said, you're off the hook, but
There
you're
it
not
is,
off of
right
disclosure.
there.
In other words, you're not in trouble now because we've cleaned the film up, but don't you talk about it. And what Jacobs said in the aftermath of that was that he was subject to a range of harassment type of activities. Some of these things would include threatening phone calls at all times of the day. And he even did vandalism against his property damage, and acts of intimidation of this sort. Enough to realize you better not talk about it.
All right. This is the amazing, this is an absolute amazing find, okay, by Joe. If I could get this to stop. Hold on. It's an amazing find. And it still fascinates me to this day, okay? Still fascinating. I can get this to pause. That is that weird glitch in StreamYard that does that. I've got to stop the sharing here. I can't stand that. Wish they would fix that. Hold on. Bring it up here. I don't know if it's gonna. All right. Just hold on a second here. All right. There we go. All right. Cool. Hold a second.
Yet to rule anything out. We have to take everything.
Now listen, that is not a rock, okay? That is definitely not a rock. I'm gonna drop the link to this video and let it lead you into whatever. But Joe has been doing these sorts of videos for years and years and years. I've been watching his channel for many, many years. And I can tell you, okay, if you really look close, you'll hear him describe, and you can even see it here. You can see a sash, okay, across the chest here. It looks almost like a sash. You can see a belt. Almost looks like some pants. But what's odd, what I have found odd in my research is the way the feet sort of have these weird, like 90-degree angled bends. That ain't the only time I've seen that really, really strange 90-degree angle bend. As a matter of fact, I'll even prove it to you. Hold on. Show you something. Here's another photo. This is from the rover. Okay, check it. Check it out. Make it larger. This is from the rover. This is from the Curiosity, okay? And what appears to be some sort of rat or gerbil, but look at its feet. How its feet are they're also bent at this really strange 90-degree angle like that, right? And what's really cool is when this photo was taken, the rover sat in this particular area for a few days, actually, and took multiple photos. And that whatever was not there. That's what makes it even cooler. But the more, let's see, the Curiosity, the Perseverance, every rover that has managed to send back these photos like this. There's some amazing photos. And I've seen a couple of finds that he has did where they looked like humanoids. Well, I'm going to tell you something that seems to stand out with all of the ones I've seen so far. They all seem to have a beak-like nose, okay? Some sort of a beak-like feature on their faces. blondish looking hair, because you can definitely tell that's hair. Okay. The feet, whatever those feet may be, are always been at this really strange angle. Now, again, I don't know if that's how these biological objects, I don't know if that's how they walk, or if that has something to do with gravity on that, on the planet of Mars. Because again, you can clearly see how the feet, even on this little rat looking gerbil thing, is at a very well bent 90-degree type angle. There are some really amazing anomalies that have been found. And I really encourage all of you guys to check out Art Alien.
It comes and look at it in a non-hysterical way.
Is that the swamp rat third
Calmly,
eye?
collectedly, and try and compare it to all the other things.
There are
that
some
you
other
find
ones.
there,
Hold on a
and
sec.
carefully, but from that, what is going on? Okay, what type of clothing they're wearing, how big they are, how old they possibly live to, that kind of thing.
Some really cool finds.
Eventually, we will have enough of these.
Like, what could that
So make a
possibly
very
be,
good picture
right?
Of what some of the people, the smaller types of people on Mars, were actually wearing and doing and living like. As well as that art and possibly writing, we should eventually get to know them quite intimately.
Now listen,
By having details like
there
this.
was back in these late 60s, I believe, we landed the Viking lander on Mars. And the Viking lander had the ability to take photos, like just a small amount of photos, send them back, and it did. And what appeared to be a skull. And I think that also sparked additional controversy. Also, the face on Mars sparked some additional controversy. And there has actually been some remote viewings done of Mars that are quite fascinating.
So it is possible that is a scabbard there. I couldn't really say, there's not really enough detail there, but the chain is very tantalizing.
You can see
that
it.
in the raw image.
You can
Just
see
there.
it.
Let me show you the folder actually, because we want to see it a bit closer up. It doesn't get any clearer when you get too close. But let me show you these clips I've got anyway. I'll show you the meme I did first. Here we are. As it shows it a bit closer. Okay, spotted by landing Gabor, 3rd March, only yesterday. There's the raw image. You can see the chain there. Okay. Once you let your eyes adjust, you can see the rings in the link chain.
Yeah.
And what looks like something attached to it there.
You sure can see that.
So in a way, it's slightly better from that distance. You can see it a bit better. Let's go back a bit like that. And you can see the contrast better when you stand back a bit or sit back a bit. There's some eye detail, but not a great deal. Nose detail, a bit distorted.
Even more amazing finds. You just look at this.
That's consistent with many of the other ones I've found. Some of them almost look like they have mutations, perhaps due to the radiation on Mars. So that is a possibility. Some of them that seem to
elongated head, large eye,
course,
small nose, and you can actually see that.
Their facial features.
Large eyes here, small nose, mouth area there.
To them. So judgment needs to be reserved on these matters.
And what's really cool, okay, what's really cool about this, you can actually, if you're interested into this sort of a thing, okay, the photos are in their raw form, updated, and you can actually search them yourself. Gigapans. There are some amazing people that spend their time stitching together these gigapans, and it allows you to view a lot of these images in a really nice format. And I'm telling you, there is some absolutely amazing finds. Hey, look, this is medium. and they've got Art's channel, or I'm sorry, Joe's channel being featured. That's clearly not a rock, right? When you look at this, that's obvious. And they'll put it in like different colors, black and white, kind of help us. But you can clearly see that. I love these type of videos. I'll spend hours, days looking at this, but you can definitely see. I don't know if it's a statue or if this is an actual like skull. Again, we don't know what happened in Mars, on that planet. For all we know, this could be a lizard right here. This little thing here, there seems to be a ton of lizards on Mars, and there's been several photos captured of lizards on Mars. That looks quite interesting. I can tell you that just from the research I've done, whatever beings operate on Mars, they're considerably smaller and shorter than Earth humans are. And also, too, let me tell you, in the research I've also done in regards to, Mars, even the gigapans that I have personally spent my time looking in, you can definitely see many instances in which NASA has photoshopped, okay, where they've blurred things out, whatever. They try to use, they try to use the like security reasons on why they do that. But there has been several instances where I've been able personally to verify images that NASA released from these rovers that they went in and redacted first before they released them. It's pretty amazing.
Just about make them out. Okay, there. And it's very similar to some of the things I found in the area, on the same sort of scale. I don't know how big this is exactly. This is probably only a few inches across. Do I have the raw image? Yes, I do. It's the raw image. Yeah, I mean, this is similar size to that lion carving I found. So this could be a carving, but it also could be a mummy.
Looks like a lizard here.
Either, take your pick.
Maybe a dog.
But the hair details.
But we sort of apply what we're used to here on Earth to what we see, and we should not do that.
There's some interesting things on it. So this is from a different soul. This is from, that was from Soul 1283. So I've got links to all these things, and I'll put them in the description, as I said earlier. Here's another one of Lanny's finds, which I published in one of my videos a while ago, last year, which is also a great find. This is from a color image from Soul 844. So that's going back even further. And this is on the
By the way, souls are our days. So that means the 844th day.
The soils eroded away over years, exposing many of these things. But what was cool about this find was the teeth, the bright white teeth, which I thought was really interesting, and lip detail and nose detail, which is quite clear.
It looks like a cataclysmic or a huge event happened.
In this part of the image because it's too dark.
And don't forget, Mars has the highest volcano in the entire solar system, 16 miles high. And it's not dormant. There's been photos of smoke coming out that volcano from a variety of satellites that are currently orbiting Mars.
Skulls and heads. They're about a third of the size. But there are some very, very large ones as well, which have a very different look and morphology to them, and are a different species or type of person, and may have even been a sort of large primates sort of creature rather than the humanoid, some of them. But that, you know, I've done lots of videos on this, so if you want to go and find out more about the other types of people, go through my channel. There was this one I posted the other day, a small skeleton. This is only a few inches long. You can see a clear skull on this. And you've got like what looks like a leg and arm, sort of arm bones sticking out as well. And there's loads of crazy
amazing
things like
finds.
that. And the other mummy, which is very similar in size to this one.
But like, imagine he literally sifts through. He has sifted through millions of photos. And just think, 9 times out of 10, there's nothing there. But when he finds the goods,
top half of the body with the arms and the head, and not the legs, they may be buried or broken off or whatever. But this is only about 4
it
inches.
really looks like
So
some
this is a
massive volcanic
consistent size
eruption
we're seeing
happened,
here.
coupled with like
I
a
don't think
tsunami.
they're
It's
children
amazing.
or dolls. I think they were actually people. Some people have said this is carved. I don't think it is carved. I think it's too intricate and too gruesome looking, but it could be. But I think that the way that mummification happens on the surface and the way that the soil reacts and preserves things and then hardens onto these things, encases them in like a clay substance and they become encrusted, which would keep them for
I'm
millions of
telling
years.
you, Joe
And
deserves, I don't know what type of award he would get for this level of work, but he has really invested a lot of time into these finds, and he definitely deserves that credit. I even seen, I was watching Amazon Prime Deep Space, an episode the other day, and I seen one of the photos by Martin Graney, who's another researcher who looks at these photos and videos and things like that, and has published several different finds. It was amazing because it's like, wait a minute, I know those names, you know, and to sort of see them recognizing that work, all that work that these individuals have put into, you know, trying to, y'all, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. I'm gonna drop a link to this video.
Gives them that slightly statue-looking.
I already got permission from Joe to showcase this with, you know, as long as I share the links, and give him the proper
it's also
credit.
down to the fact that the images are a bit.
I just love
well,
this
tends
type
to
of
make things look
content.
a bit fuzzy, and you never see kind of really sharp detail. Okay, we do sometimes, but rarely. So, and there's also these, this one here, this bad video I found.
I'll tell you right now, this video here, the mummy found on Mars, Martian bag lady with child, you definitely want to check that out. What's amazing to me is you can literally see a face, okay? Pointy heads, that sort of a thing. But also, too, the animals found on Mars dash hand and multiple craniums in that one photo alone. And this is what I love that Joe does. He always puts a link to the original photo in the description of the video so that you can hit that link and go and look at the original photo before he gets to processing it and all that. And I've definitely, you know, more than once went and looked at those original photos. And let me tell you something. The gigapan that's in this exclusive, this animals found on Mars hand and multiple craniums, I kid you not, there's like 10 ape creatures in that photo alone. It's absolutely amazing and astounding. And I swear, that one photo I spent months looking at because there was so much in the photo, so much in the photo.
Which seems to be holding,
that I would just go back and look. Even at one point, what looked like a horse,
a cloth, or something wrapped up or whatever.
Who knows?
This is a woman looking, a mummified woman by the looks of it, or a person.
Just blows your mind in regards to what you know our science books
on the surface
have taught us.
And it's also very small.
Up.
This is a less than
cannot believe
long. So
everything
around the
you
same
read.
sort of size. So they're ranging from about.
Sometimes things just don't make sense.
Well, if this was stood up, this one here would be about 8 inches, because we've only got half a mummy, so it's 4 inches.
Oh, and that's
only
the other
half the
thing
body.
too. When Joe was first doing these videos and looking at these photos and things like that, I believe that NASA used to keep the measurement on the photos where you could actually get a gauge of how big an item was. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Like if you've ever looked at like an atlas or a map, you'll have like you'll have like a long line or whatnot. It'll look something like this. And basically, it's your way of being able to sort of measure how big something may be, or how, like, for example, in an atlas, how many miles, that sort of a thing. They don't do that anymore.
1281. So that was taken only a few days before the dog. Okay, so that's pretty close by, not very far away. Here's my clip. I'll have a link to that. You can download that as well if you want to.
And when you look at that in relation to everything around it,
magazine, there's links.
And also too, there are some Facebook groups you can go and become a member of if they let you
like
in.
I said, if I find any more of
where this is all they
phones
talk about, and I'm in a couple
one or
of
two
them,
more
actually.
somewhere. I'll dig them up and I'll put them in at the end of the video in a minute. So do check this out, but do come along to the channel. My channel does seem to be struggling a little bit at the moment. There's a bit of a lull in views at the moment. So if you do come along, please share the videos. I'll be doing a bit of an update on some of these other things as well. Possibly this thing here, these ruins. There's some closer images of that have just come down today, or just been published today on the NASA site. So I'll be having another look at that. And there'll be one or two other things coming up later in the week. Okay.
Not to mention he has an awesome intro, you know. And then too, when you get to looking at these things after a while, you start seeing like things like, you know, something like this looks like it could be almost like an encrusted biological something. And even right here, even, I'm telling you, it looks like a turtle or something, doesn't it? But there's a certain texture to these things too. Is this a carved animal, a sculpture? Who knows? It looks like I see two eyes. I see one here, one here. I don't know. It's an awkward looking creature. Who knows? Y'all. Crazy, 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 crazy. How long have I been live? Hour and 23. I think I'm about done, I think. With the exception, I wanted to show one more thing. If you all caught, my video previously where we talked about the Blue Planet project, where there's some details where a scientist who was involved in crash retrievals and that sort of a thing, okay? Kind of described.
Não esquenta não. Bicho, uma parada ali passando atrás, bicho. Você viu? Não, deixa quieto, vou continuar, que é frescura. Não, peraí, não, esquenta não. Pode continua aí.
All right, sorry, hold on a sec.
Cara, bicho, tu viu, Leandro?
Did you all see that?
Bicho, cara,
Now watch real close. You'll see something run behind him. This is not CGI. Something's running so fast. Who knows what it is? But definitely check out that Project Earth Files PDF file. I dropped a link earlier where it goes into more detail about some of these beings, including, but not limited to,
Não esquenta
What
não.
is considered
Bicho,
normal
vi uma
blood
parada ali
pressure?
passando
That sort
atrás,
of a
bicho.
thing.
Você
Hold on, let me see
viu?
if I can find
Não, não,
it.
não, não, deixa quieto, vou continuar, acho que é frescura mesmo. Não, peraí, não, esquenta não. Pois é, continua aí.
You actually
Caralho,
see
bicho,
it.
tu viu, Leandro? Eu vi!
It went by so fast.
Não esquenta não. Bicho, vi
They
uma
say
parada
that
ali
it is
passando
a
atrás, bicho.
reptilian
Você
creature,
viu?
but again,
Não, deixa quieto, vou.
again, with those reptilian creatures, they say that they essentially like have the ability to present an image to you that looks like a human, but it's not human. It's not. So I don't know. It's crazy. It's interesting, to say the least. And that's what they say they look like. The only, I've seen 2 photos that supposedly are actual photos. One was in the Project Earth book, it was an actual photograph. And the other one was that the Devil of Dong Su, the cave, where we talked about this the other day, where that image was taken, of what appears to be a very strange looking lizard-like creature, but it's standing up like a man. It's very odd. And it looks really just like this right here. Kind of makes you wonder all of the ancient drawings and paintings that have, even going back to the 15th century, famous paintings that seem to show even, UFO objects, flying objects, unidentified flying objects. Who knows, guys? Who knows? It's interesting. Huh. Well, I'm out of here, y'all. I'm out of here. I'll see y'all next time. I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream on Facebook. I'll leave it up, though. Get rid of that. Move it.